In this video, I'm going to be comparing the True Grit franchise to the Sleeping Beauty franchise. You have two different True Grit movies. One of them came out in 2010, the other one in 1969. I've seen the 2010 movie, not the other one. You have the original Disney animated Sleeping Beauty, the Maleficent, as well as Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. I've seen Sleeping Beauty and Maleficent, but not Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. When it comes to the highest score for each franchise, in the case of True Grit, you have a 95% for the 2010 version. With Sleeping Beauty, you have a 90% for the original Disney animated film. True Grit wins here. Then when you look at lowest score, what's impressive of True Grit is that the 1969 movie has the lowest score, and it still has an 88%, which is still great. In the case of Sleeping Beauty, lowest score is only 39% for Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. True Grit wins here. Then when you look at average score, True Grit has an average of 91. Sleeping Beauty has an average of 61. True Grit wins again. And then when you look at gap between lowest and highest score, with True Grit you only have a gap of 7. With Sleeping Beauty you have a gap of 51. True Grit wins, meaning it's already won for the round, so it's going to win regardless of my personal opinion. But let's look at it now. Overall, I'm not a big Western fan. I haven't seen very many Westerns, to be honest. I don't have any issues with the 2010 True Grit movie I can think of. Admittedly, it's been a decent amount of time since I've watched that movie, and I feel like I was honestly a bit tired when I saw it last, so I don't know if I necessarily caught everything. I actually watched the original Disney animated Sleeping Beauty for the first time not too long ago, whereas I watched Maleficent for the first time quite a good amount of time ago. In the case of the original Disney animated Sleeping Beauty, I would say that Maleficent is an intimidating villain. There's good visuals here. I like the way the fairies are portrayed in this movie because you can tell they're actually trying to be good parents for Aurora. I like that. I like it much more than the way we see them in Maleficent, where they're just presented as totally incompetent. I find them to be insufferable in Maleficent, honestly. In the case of the movie Maleficent, I think the biggest problem here is just fundamentally I want Maleficent to be the villain. As simple as that. I'm just not interested in her backstory or having her reframed to be a misunderstood anti hero. She is one of Disney's most evil villains, really, because she curses a girl to death due to not being invited to a birthday party. That's obviously so ridiculously petty that you go, yeah, she is absolutely evil. Now, I think that the prince in Sleeping Beauty is a bit more three dimensional than the prince from Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. For one, we actually know the name of the prince in this movie, unlike in Snow White, where he's literally unnamed. And we know at least a little bit more about the prince in Sleeping Beauty, because we actually learn that the prince's dad is friends with Princess Aurora's dad. The two of them want their kids to get married in order to unite their kingdoms. So you see why there's you see that there's a reason why the prince might end up getting married to the princess. Though still, I don't think the prince character is really all that interesting in this movie. And when it comes to Aurora, I think that she's a bit more personality than Snow White does in the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, though she's still not that interesting of a character. I still find her a bit bland, but I think that Sleeping Beauty is not a bad movie, just not all that interesting either. To be honest, I mean, the story here works, I would say. Just the characters are not as compelling. In the case of when it comes to Maleficent, I think that Angelina Jolie gives a great performance as the title character Maleficent. There's some good visuals in here, and there's some interesting ideas about, for example, how vengeance or greed can rot a person from the inside, but it feels very weird to have an actual villain in a Maleficent movie. Like, what? There's a different character who's the villain, not Maleficent. Why? That just feels so strange. When it comes to Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, I think that the problem with this movie is not only does Maleficent feel like a side character in her own movie, but this one is trying to be like Game of Thrones, except with a PG rating and with a shorter runtime, so it can't really accomplish that particularly well. And so I'm like, that doesn't really sound interesting to me, so I'm not interested in watching this one. So you can tell that Sleeping Beauty is certainly not my favorite of the Disney franchises. I think it's inconsistent, but because at the end of the day, I'm personally more into a Disney animated movie than a Western, I think I would choose Sleeping Beauty. Yeah, so wrap things up for this video.